Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and tonight we are back in Vermont. And we are going to have an interesting match. I know this seems to be a theme lately, but seriously. This morning has been interesting, but not for the good reasons. But I'll show you guys as we get into this match some of the interesting things that we need to talk about. But as we push forward, you guys know the deal. We're on the left flank. We're going to try to win our side. Now, we've got a small end ahead of us that's a radar destroyer. We have a carrier or battle carrier next to us. So we should have a pretty decent spread on this flank for at least holding our own, right? In theory. We don't know exactly what we're going to be up against. We can assume at least one of their destroyers is going to be over here, and maybe a battleship or two over here. There's only 2 cruisers in the entire lobby. You can see Maine gets spotted immediately, right? Now, I want you guys to pay attention to how this match plays out, okay? I want you to pay attention to the like positioning of everybody and how useful that they are in their positioning, okay? That's the main thing I want to point out, because that's one of the things that people get wrong so often, right? Like, I know I tend to be over-aggressive, okay? Now, right out the gate, Delaware ends up dropping the Maine and absolutely smashes him, right? Huge hit right out the bat. Now, our destroyer is pushing out to the left flank, as always. You can see torpedoes coming through the gap. So we know that there's an enemy destroyer here. We don't know which destroyer it is yet, but we know there is at least an enemy destroyer here. And you can see I'm like, okay, oh, nope, there's another torp. We're going to take a torp. Right, and at this point, it's just about taking the torp on the torp protection to minimize the damage, and you'll see that it's no damage. Like, it's 6K. So I'm like, okay, it's clearly the Holland, right? Like, we know what we're up against over here. Maine goes full broadside here, and I'm salivating at this point. I'm like, okay, yeah, you're gonna get clapped. And don't forget, this is a New Jersey build, so I've got the Arthas on there as well, and we just 2/3 health that man immediately. But look at the positioning of my Delaware. Is he in a position where he can shoot anything with his guns at all? No, he's not. He can't shoot anything. Now, he could potentially, if somebody would spot the Bravo Cap, but there's nobody there even trying to spot, so I don't know why he's looking over there, right? And if he does back up to where he spots, you can see even more torps coming, but if he does back up to where he spots them, he's broadside to them. Not ideal, right? When he could be helping his side win the match. Now, our destroyer runs around the corner, radars their destroyer immediately, which I had just pointed out that their destroyer was right there to begin with. Right? He goes and tries the torpedo right out the gate, and he turns and runs. Now, Holland does the same thing. Holland turns and runs. I think he drops torpedoes. It's a wash between the two of them, right? But wasting your radar early, when you ain't even going to use it to shoot anything, makes no sense. Right? But he does drop his torpedoes out there in the path of the Maine and the Kurfürst. The Delaware is going to be dropping torpedoes on him as well. You can see he's going to get a couple of hits with the torps here as well. We get an absolutely juicy look, but unfortunately he turns away just enough to keep himself from being sent to the bottom. So now we have to set ourselves up at a kiting position here, because now we have a Maine, a Kurfürst, and at least one of their destroyers here that we knew. So we've got to set ourselves up to where we take as little damage as possible for as long as possible, right? Maine gets a really good salvo there into the rear of the superstructure, but then he starts making his turn towards me, and this is just GG. You're done. You're turning towards me, raising the Citadel out of the water in a Maine against a Vermont. Like, you're not going to win that fight, right? So, easy kill. He's down. I took minimal damage, probably could have gotten away with taking a little bit less, but unfortunately I just fired my guns, and now we're in a situation where the destroyers are fighting one another. Now I want you guys to pay attention how little damage our gunboat destroyer does to their gunboat destroyer, right? These are essentially the same ship. Some would argue that the small end is better because it has radar, but you can see he does about 5K. He is hitting him occasionally, but we didn't unfortunately get a chance to hit him. We overlead him, and we get some bad RNG there to just miss off the side of his ship. But he loses most of his health to the Holland, and only does about 6K damage to him. right? Like, that's, you got to do better with your gunning, right? Like, if you're going to do it, and you can see he is trying to, once again, torpedo the destroyer, which is never your option, right? Like, you should not be trying to torpedo another destroyer unless you have no other option, right? Most of the time, they're simply going to miss. Now, the Delaware does come over this direction, but at this point, I can't sit out here because our destroyer is clearly going to die. The enemy, Holland, should have no trouble getting him off the board. We lose our Mino on the other flank. And so I'm trying to rotate my guns around to the left side and push back towards the Charlie cap, back towards the Bravo cap, because I've got to put myself in position for later in the game. One of the things that the Vermont is just terrible at is repositioning, right? Like, I can win my flank pretty easily with the Vermont, but I actually lost a game earlier today because the Vermont is so freaking slow. I wiped my flank completely out, and then I spent the next 8 minutes trying to traverse the map to get over to the other side. Now, here, this is important. Notice how we've got both destroyers here. Now, I know you guys are going to be like, well, Spartan, you should shoot the destroyer here. And you're right, I should. But at the same time, I figured that Holland has already shown that he's willing to dodge. I can take the guaranteed damage here. Unfortunately, it doesn't even turn into guaranteed damage because the GK apparently is a propulsion mod GK, and he's going to get going forward enough to mitigate most of the damage that he takes. Our battleship carrier thingamajig goes and beaches himself on the island. Our Worcester has moved into the center of the map. He's going to capture the center cap, which is huge. Now, I will say this. We ended up playing a couple of games with the Worcester player in his division after this match as well. But you'll see that I do ask for the Worcester support here, and I'm going to be in chat asking for his support as well. I know the player, right? I remember this player from way back in the day. But you can see as the Holland is trying to torp us again, I'm not super worried about it. He is going to get 2 torps. One of those is going to cause flood, knock out my steering, so we're going to have to fix that. But we have an answer to their destroyers sitting right in the middle of the map. Now, I'm not saying you got to put yourself in a dangerous position where the curve first is going to send you to the bottom, but there are options for you to put yourself in a more useful position to be able to handle the things that are the biggest issue over here, which is the destroyers, right? We, as battleships, we have no answer for the destroyers unless they are just dumb, right? Like, unless the destroyers are just dumb, there's not much we can do. But you can see Worcester does end up taking down the Lepanto. Burns him down. Now, I'm located because their destroyer's in the cap with me, right? Again, we already know this. We're not dumb. We know exactly where these guys are, or at least we know where one of them is. The other one is still out in the distance over by the GK. So I'm going to try to put myself in position to get rid of one of their DDs. We have to get rid of him. Knowing that it's the Hayate in the cap, knowing that he has me located, knowing that he's going to know that I'm coming through the gap and that this is his opportunity to get rid of me, we have to be ready for him, right? But we have to be smart. I do have an Arthas button ready. I have my catapult fighter ready for the Arthas to activate, so we get 20% more damage. So as long as I get a decent look at this Hayate, we should be able to take him out, right? Because I'm pretty sure last time we saw him, he was at least half health. Right, so we should be able to finish them off. Remember, most of the time, a battleship is going to do about half the health of a destroyer with AP. Most of the time. Unless, of course, you get a full broadside into them and they just take every shell, in which case you can absolutely death strike. But you can see their Holland gets spotted again, headed out towards our battle carrier. I'm still located. Their destroyer is still in the cap with me, and here he comes around the corner. You can see he has less than 10k health. We put the shot through with Arthas button active, and we take him down. 9,900 hit points. He drops his torps. We're going to take 2 of these right on the bow. No big deal. It sucks, but we'll take it. Now, here's the problem. I have to turn out to get my rear guns on target, but also avoid beaching on the island here, which leaves me broadside and very vulnerable to the GK, who gets a really nasty salvo against me. Now, that being said, I definitely out-traded him in that salvo. So we'll take that, I guess. But I am going to leave the cap here. Why am I going to leave the cap? Because I'm going to try to kill the Grossa Kerr first. So you'll see that I'm going to angle back away from the island. And we're going to be stuck looking through the rear guns for a little bit because the camera, anytime you get too close to the island, the camera freaks out. But as the GK takes a shot at our Worcester, I'm going to go ahead and try to put some shots into the superstructure of the GK. And we get a really good result. Again, another 16,000. Again, this is why I don't really ever fear a GK. Like, you chunk this man for 15 to 20,000 damage every time you shoot at him. Doesn't matter if he's bow tanking or broadside, doesn't matter. You're going to chunk it. You can see our battle carrier gets a shot on the GK as well. I think he's got some torps out there, it looks like. And he missed the torps, unfortunate. But we're going to get another shot into the superstructure of the GK. You can see that the enemy destroyer is still trying to torp us. No big surprise there. He's been trying to torp me the entire game. Our battle carrier goes back into the cap, gets that cap, which is huge because, again, game's real close. Like, either team could win this game on points, so we've got to be smart about this. Now, as we're trying to get rid of the GK, the Worcester puts himself behind the island so that he can continue to shoot the GK but not be the center of attention, which is perfectly fine. I'm going to take the hits, but with the GK basically broadside as crap here, I unfortunately can only get one gun, or the rear guns on the target. I can't afford to go broadside, but rear gun was enough. We get rid of it. Now, you're going to see two things happen here. The Worcester is going to tell me that I need to get away. I disagree. Because we have to defend the cap. Our guy's going to try to capture the Charlie cap, right? But right now, the enemy has two caps. If we don't get that Charlie cap, and then they come into the center here and get this cap, we just loot, right? So I have to put myself in a position that's defensible, but also where I can actually defend the cap. Now, unfortunately for the Worcester, he's going to make the absolute worst choice he could have made, which is go around the island. There was no reason for him to go around the island, but he goes around the island, and unfortunately for him, that battleship that's last known was heading towards the edge of the island is in fact heading towards the edge of the island. And Worcester comes around the corner and runs face first into the enemy Yamato. Again, paying attention to the minimap, should have seen that coming, right? And it's easy to sit here and say hindsight 2020, all that stuff, be like, oh yeah, I totally would have seen that coming if that was me. Not saying I would have, but you gotta, those are the little keys that I try to call for you guys so that you guys don't make these mistakes going forward, right? Like, you've seen the last known position of that battleship was heading towards that island. So going around that island was a terrible play, right? And he's played a great game up to this point. He's captured bases. He's helped burn things down. He's done his job. Could have done a little bit better at handling destroyers, but it is what it is, right? He's done his part. But unfortunately, he goes down. Now, at this point, I've got a Montana right in front of me. I take the shot, hoping for a big hit. We get a decent hit, but unfortunately, RNG just says, go yourself. And this is the part where he's going to get into chat and start telling me how I need to play. And I'm like, dude, relax. I understand. I got to kill the Montana. I've got 14k hit points in a dream right here. If the Montana had just shot my superstructure, I'm pretty sure he just kills me with one shot. But fortunately for me, he did not. And unfortunately for the Montana, I'm going to go high again for the superstructure. Trying to get as much damage as possible, possibly knock out a gun. Didn't happen. He does shoot a little bit of my superstructure here, but doesn't pull it off. And at this point, we're committed to the drive-by, right? I've got my rear guns already loaded. I've got decent firing angles on the rear turret. We've got HE coming in from a battle carrier, and this guy's going to go for the drive-by on me, and I go just lower than waterline to guarantee that we get that Citadel, and we get the triple Citadel Dev Strike on the man, trading a 14k Vermont for a full health Montana. I will take that trade any day of the week, and that takes us up to 205,000 damage. But not only that, not only did we get a good trade there, but we managed to allow our team to grab the Charlie cap, and we defended the Bravo cap, which means we now have all of the points. We have the points lead, we have the caps lead, and there's less than just about a minute left on the clock. Now, the Worcester will get back in the chat. He'll be saying things like, dude, you got to just run away, and he's not wrong. This guy should absolutely just turn away and run, right? But at the end of the day, it's a Holland that's against him. The Holland is going to do negligible damage. Even if the Holland lands every single torpedo, Musashi just eats it, right? He's got 44,000 hit points. Holland drops 10 torpedoes into him, and each of those. I guess technically if he hits all 10 torpedoes, he could do up to 60,000 damage, but there's going to be some damage saturation in there as well. So it's unlikely that he kills the Musashi with a torp strike, but you don't want to give him that chance either. But at the end of the day, this was a fun game. It could have gone either way, and the Musashi gets to be the hero who just survives and wins the game, which is perfectly fine with me. Because you got to remember, not only does he have to deal with the destroyer, there's Yamato that should be in position to potentially take shots at him as well. So you never want to give the enemy a chance to win in this situation. So just keep that in mind. If you ever find yourself in the game late like that, you've got the points lead, just turn and run. There's no reason to not to. But top of the leaderboard, 2,747 base XP. Worcester coming in second, as you saw. Musashi getting the dev strike comes in third. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Did you agree with my assessments? Did you pay attention? Did you see all the positioning, where people were and where they could have been better? And if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button. Leave a comment below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And as always, I will see you in the next video.